Well, thanks to anybody that does stop by and listens for a little bit. So, as I said in the description, this is a post that's all about Breval and the end, also the end of the really wonderful book by Joseph Wasielewski, The Violoncello and Its History. What I just played was a little excerpt from Breval, Opus 28, a set of 6 sonatas. It was Sonata number 1, second movement, Rondo, just the opening. Something that's really interesting to me, for anybody that hasn't stopped by my channel before, is forgotten cello music. Well, that's what I'm calling it, forgotten cello music. It may not necessarily be forgotten. It could be neglected, or it just could be ostracized for who knows whatever reason. Some master may have made a comment, and for the next 100 years, it's put out, as it were. Or it just could be that it, doesn't leave an impression on most people, or there's not enough time in the day. And that certainly is the case. Cello music has a lot more available out there than I was ever led to believe, or any teacher believed, any teacher that I had. It was always like, oh, it's so, the violinists, they're so lucky. They have all this music they can choose from. And the cellists, they just have these few, maybe dozen pieces of music that are considered to be great standards. And in many ways, there's a couple of dozen that are really great, top of the game. But there's a lot of music, hundreds, I would argue, of pieces that are of really high quality, very well composed. The composer, whether it is a cellist composer or just a regular composer, as it were, someone that does it full time, not teaching, playing, and composing, wrote also very nice music that we may not just know about, we may not play for various reasons. It is a direct result of going systematically and chronologically through Joseph Wasielewski's book, The Violoncello and Its History. It was published in 1898. At least that's the first printing, I believe. So it stops, obviously, in the 1890s as far as reporting what is available, who was playing, who was active. But I mean, there's just mountains of information, mountains of music that you could potentially go through. And now with IMSLP, almost, I don't know that anybody would not know about IMSLP, where you can get access to free scores. Anything public domain is fair game. And I have used it widely. I have a subscription so I can support their work and get score access immediately. It's been worth it. It's a very, very inexpensive subscription for the value it provides. Now, as far as the end of that giant book, The Violoncello and Its History, I said in my latest episode, which was already something like 3 weeks ago, episode 81, that I probably wouldn't do very much in the way of music because I was getting a little tired of it. But now I've let it settle for 3 weeks, and I have to say I can't just stop. I'm so close to the end. There's a bit of concluding what's it called, language. There's a conclusion proper at the end, where Wasielewski goes up and sums it all up. He goes over a bunch of names that are bona fide composers, lots of great names that you can recognize, Mendelssohn and Brahms and Schumann and so on. But he also mentions a number of other names that have fallen off to the wayside that most of us probably wouldn't know off the top of our head. Maybe we've heard their names occasionally. And then there are some that we just have no clue about anymore. And it seems to me rather almost disrespectful to leave it just because I've gone through the entire book. You know, I bothered myself to present some of the very earliest kind of bass music, that is viola da gamba music. And I did that simply because at the very beginning, when viola da gambas were being transitioned or cut down or refitted to be cellos, most of the early cello players were making their own transcriptions of viola da gamba music. And it's even to this day a fairly popular thing. I mean, the greatest example, of course, are Bach's 3 viola da gamba sonatas, which cellos regularly play. And then of course, I went through every single chapter. I went through all the various countries, and some of them to lesser or greater degree, depending on what kind of impression I got or what was just simply available to play. And in many ways, or in many cases, I didn't choose music simply because it is really hard, virtuosic, and my playing is kind of a mess. Anybody that's been watching me on this channel has probably noticed, yeah, okay, it's not very good playing a lot of the time, and it's certainly not stellar playing. But I wish it was. You know, I really do wish I had better grasp of the instrument and had just it sounded better overall. But the point in general is that it's just interesting that this music can be sitting there, and it's good quality music, a lot of it, and very few people are playing it. You know, you do a search in YouTube and you can find some of the names here and there, but basically a lot of it, I'm the first one or the one with more views, I guess. I mean, that's kind of pushing it in some ways, depending on it. Gultermann is one that more people are playing. Klangel is one composer that more people are playing. But then you get into August Nock, Hugo Schlemmüller, Albert Schiklos. Let's see, who are some of the others that I did toward the beginning? Oh, there's so many names that I just can't remember right now. I don't have a run sheet. Everything is extemporaneous right now. Yeah, so long story short, I'm thinking up something that I can do for the final episode of that will wrap up the book, The Violoncello and Its History, which would probably be episode 82, at least 82, 83, something like that. All right, that's that. Now, Breval. I recently got a message from one of my Patreon members. Thank you very much for that message. It really made me pause and think, maybe I should go back. Maybe I do want to go back and look at Breval. And I found this Opus 28, which is a set of 6 sonatas, you know, something very common back in those days. You can think of Bach. He wrote sets of 6 suites, the clavier, 3 sets of 6 suites, the cello, violin, orchestra, and so on, like the Brandenburg concertos. This set is a little bit more advanced. I don't know if you remember or if you have seen it, but he also wrote a set of 6 sonatas, Suzuki Volume 4. If anyone is familiar, go right there. That's the only Breval sonata that I was aware of as a student until, well, just 3-4 years ago, quite frankly. And I never knew that there was any more to that. I just thought Breval was some random composer and he wrote one sonata. Because teachers, back in those days, teachers never really informed you of any of that stuff. That it was just only about the music, learning the technique, making sure you did it right. Hey, what's wrong? You played it wrong, blah, 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 stuff like that. But those 6 sonatas are solidly in the lower intermediate range, and they are really wonderful duet versions. I mean, that's another common feature of this era. They would write the basso continuo, and of course, in a real live performance, they would always, most certainly, always have a chord instrument like a harpsichord, and then another second cello, which was a sustaining instrument. And then, of course, the solo. Now, Opus 28 is a step higher. It's like middle intermediate. It's certainly not advanced. But you get to read in tenor clef, and you get to go up into higher positions like 4th and 5th position occasionally. And the ideas are a little bit more advanced just because of the territory you have to cover. So you get a little more virtuosity in some ways. It was on my mind that I wanted to record all 6 of the intermediate ones, and then I got kind of bored and I got kind of lazy. And now I have it in my head, I kind of want to record these too. Despite my lack of playing well, the representation is not of a high level. It's still really fun for me, and it's just exciting to hear something come to life. Also, I just get to play more, which is part of my current kick with my students. Is part of practice is simply spending time with your instrument and getting to know what it is all about, getting to know what it feels like as you play. These 6 sonatas are really wonderful examples of what you can learn on the cello. Now, in some cases, they sound awfully similar to some of Schettke's duets and also a little bit of Boccherini. Here's Sonata number 2. It sounds something like this. Okay, really messy again. I have to say, I'm quite unhappy with the way my playing has just pretty much tanked into. Well, you can write it in the comments if you want. I'm really surprised. I'm totally surprised that nobody has completely roasted me over the last 2.5-3 years with the level of playing. I do hope though that you can sense that at least I know what I'm supposed to be doing. I know my way around the cello. It's not that I don't know it. I mean, I did all the studies and I practiced a lot and I played almost all the standard repertoire. Before I sign off today, I wanted to show you something else that I thought was really stunning. And I saved it to the end because I figure, based on all the statistics, almost nobody goes to the end. or even past the first 30 seconds to a minute. So I'm really safe now. Check this out. Gruetzmacher, get this all lined up so I can see it. Gruetzmacher wrote a whole bunch of what he called elite etudes based on tunes from masters of old, from the early 1700s to the early 1800s. And here is one that he based on a tune by Breval. This is an aria with the tempo andante, and the beginning goes a little like this. I'll do that again. Man, I'm so under practiced. It really pains me that I'm not doing very well. There it is. And so on and so forth. Now, he does something really interesting. He changes the key from G to B flat. So we go from to, and here's the beginning of the B flat section. And so on and so forth. Hopefully my face doesn't tell you how difficult it is for me right now. There was a point in time when I was getting around the cello fairly easily. Okay, anyway, enough about bemoaning my lack of practice and getting worse and worse on cello. Anyway, the Gruetzmacher etudes are just a really interesting and actually stunning example of what cello players in particular were doing to create music, more advanced music, to further the technique of cello playing, to put it more in the spotlight. They were very active, especially in the 1800s. There's just a plethora of music for cello. Some of it really good, stellar music. Some of it so-so, and some of it just I don't even know how they got through performing it, to be honest. You look at it, you think, whoa, it looks kind of droll, looks kind of boring almost, and just super repetitive. And then there's other stuff that you think, wow, this is really nice music. Robert Fuchs, for example, wrote some sonatas, wonderful music. Bernhard Scholz wrote a bunch of sonatas. Who else? There was another guy, Gustav Jensen, I think, is who I'm thinking of, wrote some sonatas. And then, of course, you get to music that you know about, but isn't performed quite as often. Mendelssohn, he wrote 2 sonatas. It's there, people know about it, but it's just not as performed as much as the Schumann fantasy pieces, or Brahms cello sonatas, the what else from that era? Beethoven, of course, the Beethoven 5 cello sonatas, and even Beethoven's 3 sets of variations are not performed quite as much as his sonatas. Some people might not even know that he wrote 3 sets of variations, which are originally for cello and piano. So in all, also he arranged his horn sonata. I'm sure of it. He arranged his horn sonata for cello and piano. In all, he wrote 5 sonatas, 3 sets of variations, a horn sonata that's been arranged by him, and then the triple concerto. That's 5, 8, 9, 10. 10 pieces of music that Beethoven wrote for cello, which is pretty good. Like, that's a high number of pieces for cello coming from a major composer. That rarely happens. Brahms didn't do it. He wrote 2 sonatas and then the double concerto. Didn't bother to write a concerto like Beethoven didn't bother. Travesty. What a travesty, right? But also, even Brahms, now that I think of it, I'm sure this is the case as well. He arranged the G major violin sonata. This one for cello and piano. I really could go on and on. Anyway, I've got to get out of my malaise, and I really need to stick to my plan, stick to my guns, to the proverbial guns of making something happen with my playing. It's gone on for a way too long, this lackadaisical approach and just kind of thinking, there's nothing here. But I'm starting to kind of wake up and get out of it. I feel like there's something good coming. I think there's a lot more for me to do playing wise. I one day soon in the next year, I will have the chops that I did have. I was playing Shostakovich Cello Concerto 1, pretty on top of it. I was playing Elfentanz really pretty fast. Not the fastest thing ever, but I was doing some very good clean playing way up high and getting around. Oh, what else did I was playing Ligeti, the solo sonata, Hindemith solo sonata, and I was doing pretty well. I was doing some pretty good stuff. That was back in the day where recordings were possible. It was fairly possible to do it easily, but I just didn't bother with most of the time. Didn't bother with it, and if I did, I have no idea where those recordings are anyway, because storage was a pain. Those either cassettes or you had to find the SD card that fit your machine, your particular machine. So, yep, that's it. I hope you come along with me for the journey. If you want cello lessons, you can send me a message. We can work out cello lessons and talk about the fee per 30 minutes, 45 minutes, 1 hour, or longer. What else? Come join me on my Patreon. Just a little bit of support goes a long way. I mean, I've got 3 patrons right now. They are generously supporting me, some of them for a year now. And it really says a lot, and it helps the psyche, it just keeps things going, like, wow, somebody's actually interested in what I do and they want to support. You can, if you don't want to do that, you could get your friends to just simply click subscribe to my channel. They can just forget about it. The channels that you don't access on a regular basis are basically as if you don't even subscribe, but the subscription number is there. Of course, it's counted. Another way is go through, if you're subscribed, and even if you're not subscribed, go through my videos and click like, watch it all the way through, or at least click through the videos and leave a comment. Every time you click like, it helps. And if I can get hundreds of views versus just dozens of views, I mean, that would just help the what's it called? The goal of getting monetized here on YouTube. They recently lowered the threshold, I think. Yeah, I'm pretty sure they lowered the threshold. Now it's, I think, 2,000. Is that right? Either 1,000 or 2,000 subscribers. You also don't need quite as many watch hours in 1 year, if I remember right. My watch hours are really pitiful. Well, actually, no, I'm going to take that back. Considering how few views I get and how bad the statistics are of people just dropping off like flies after the first 10 seconds, that's pretty good. I think I have 38 current watch hours in the last 28 days. Now, when I was posting regularly every day or two, I was up to 50 hours. That was stunning. That was really stunning. That actually gave me a lot of hope. Unfortunately, during that time, I got super busy doing other things, and now I'm starting to get back. Thank you to anybody that has watched this long. If you have, would you do me a really big favor? Click like and leave a comment and say, hey, I watched, or I at least clicked to this point and I heard the ending of the video. All right, that's that. Come along with me in the journey of the end of the book, The Violoncello and Its History, as for the conclusion, and also for future episodes and future videos about Breval and probably others too. Thanks a lot.